Mark, welcome to Build to Sell Radio.
Thanks for having me.
How did you get into business for yourself? Because you're a guitar player and teacher, I understand.
Yeah, actually, it's a long story, but back in 2009, I was a full-time jazz musician located in Montreal. And as you know, artists struggle to make ends meet. So
Starving artist. It's become a cliche.
It's become a cliche. Plus, I was a little bit overweight, so I was a fat, starving artist, if it makes any sense. But at that point, I started a blog where I said, there's a lot of things happening online, but that's even before Google took over YouTube, whenever the web was, I wouldn't say young, but it was still 2008, right? So less mobile phones, no iPads and whatnot. So I started this blog at jazzguitarlessons.net where I would just share lessons. And I said, if I can make a few $100 out of AdSense, which is the other side of AdWords, right? Just make content and have people come and look for it and learn guitar stuff and chords and jazz. I'd be happy to, pay the rent with that stuff.
So this business model was, and for folks who maybe haven't gone deep into this, you're essentially building a blog, driving eyeballs, and then allowing Google to run its advertising on your site. When you see those kind of sponsored by Google ads, and those would generate some revenue. That was your original business model.
That was the original plan because I had no training and no background and no idea how to build online products. Also, I would use affiliate links from Amazon because I know jazz is an American art form. So US citizens looking to learn jazz on the guitar would go there and say, oh, Mark recommends that book, and if I use my Amazon link, I made my record month was probably $75 off of Amazon affiliates.
Right. Again, so for people who don't know what that is, essentially you have a website, lots of traffic. If you put an affiliate link for a book, someone goes from your site to Amazon to buy that book. Amazon cuts you a very, very small check as a percentage of that sale.
Yeah, it's incremental too. It used to be like 5% for your first 20 items and then 6% if you sold more, etc. So yes, that's actually how I started the blog. And I realized that even to this day, the basis, the blueprint of pages that attracts it, because that attracts the visitors, is actually the same basis that I built back 10 years ago. It's about 300 or so pages, and it's all SEO. I have tried, search engine optimizations. Yep. And I've tried several experiments to make things happen with paid ads. So to generate leads from paid sources, I could get leads for very, very cheap. We're talking 15 cents, 30 cents US per lead. However, I realized that the highly converting people are the visitors, the guitarists that search for us, that find a solution. And I'm like, oh, wow, that's what it is. So I built, for the first 5 years, I built a basis of content, including YouTube videos, where I put my big face on YouTube and people started to like me, and people started to download those free PDFs. And eventually it turned into a business maybe 5 years ago. It's been 10 years. So the first 5 years were content building. Second 5 years were on the business side.
Got it. And the content is how to learn how to play jazz guitar, which is a form of guitar, which has some unique
improvisation aspect is the biggest differentiator, I guess. So it's like, I know it's a niche of a niche. And when I talk with my friends, they're like, why didn't you make a guitar website? There's way more traffic. Like, yes, but there's way less competition in jazz. I'm the only one, right?
Yeah. The old niching down, monopoly control. So, okay. So you've got this business, you've got a little bit of revenue coming in from AdSense, a little bit of revenue from Amazon affiliate. How much revenue did you max out at on a, say, monthly basis from those two sources before you made the switch to subscription?
That's a good question. And I do remember because it must have been 2011, mid 2011 or 2012. I think combined it was about $700 or $800 in a given month.
Okay.
For a poor jazz musician, and I was a kid still, it was a good lump of money. However, that was a dead end because you don't have any control over that. You don't have any control over affiliate percentage. You don't have any control over who clicks on your ads or where, and if Google is going to change their policies or whatever. So the other thing that I've done that I didn't mention, I just listed private lessons. I'm for hire. I'm like, you like my YouTube video, take an hour with me, pay me on PayPal. It was a ridiculously small amount, maybe $30 per hour. So I got I got some people from Australia, from the UK, from the US that get lessons with me. But most of the revenues were AdSense and Amazon.
Got it. And so what triggered you to want to explore a subscription model?
It's a really long story. Actually, you interviewed Scott Miller in Built to Sell Radio episode 128. I met this guy, and Scott was actually a guitar student who started to give me some business advice. And it came at a right time because I'm a trained classical musician, jazz musician, and I'm also a trained statistician. So when I hit my 28th or 29th birthday, I'm like, I'm not going to be a musician for my whole life. So I might as well get training. So I'm a total math head. I've actuarial training. I've worked at StatScan here and at Citizenship for the government. And I wound up looking at my life and going, I can't do the 9 to 5. I'm not interested. Let me build something. Turned around. I had this blog running that would basically pay my rent for no maintenance. So coming up with Scott, Scott basically took me by the hand and he said, all these PDFs that you give for free for download, your sheet music that people love, why don't you lock them up behind not a paywall, but just an email address? Sure, John, you can get my sheet music, just put your email here, it's free. So I started to generate leads and tons of them. So I started to use, not MailChimp, the other one, Aweber, to send these massive emails to say, hey guys, I got this ebook and you can buy it for $15 and it's $15 only this week. So I started to run these promotional sales. And sorry, the answer is going to be very long on that one.
That's okay. That's why we got you here on the show. So it's great.
And that was going on for about 2 or 3 years. And working with Scott as a coach, basically, we made a plan to forecast revenues, like how much money do you need to live and not go into that 9 to 5 job? What's your revenue goal from that blog for which you'll be selling electronic products? So first year went well, second year went well, and I realized I was producing more and more content and more in that craze of Udemy. I don't know if you remember, everybody was selling their online, I guess Value Builder System has its own courses, right? And I got to a point where I migrated away from Udemy. I built my own platform to gain control. And eventually I realized that the pressure of running a constant promotion and scratching our heads every single month, how are we going to make ends meet? Which products are we going to promote? What's the spin to the email promo? What should the landing page look like? Eventually I got not fed up, but tired of this system that said, let's bundle this like a Netflix offer and just get in, it's $20 a month, just get everything instead. So that's like the short answer.
Good. I want to go further, but once before you flip the switch to become sort of the Netflix of jazz guitar lessons, what was your revenue in a typical month from those sort of one-off promotions? What would you typically generate? Ballpark.
Ballpark, I'd say 5,000 to 8,000 a month.
Okay, so it's starting to pick up at this point. So you're starting to get like a
traction.
Revenue. Yeah.
It was a good time too, because I would start to hire people to work with me, which was not possible being a single blogger. So I have this ebook for sale and I have this video course, and please buy it or else I'm going to starve, right? So it started to be more of I have people, I'm starting to gain traction. I hired in the Philippines, which was an amazing learning experience and management experience for spending very little money on employees, but actually being able to train them and show them how to do customer support and things like that. So the ball was already rolling, but it was time for a change to say, well, if I can lock someone in at $20, but he stays for 5 months, that's the $100 for a couple of courses this guy would have purchased. However, the marketing efforts and everything behind it becomes easier. Well, right? It's once you start getting recurring revenues, like, oh, you float. It's like, wow, okay, things are just coming in nicely.
So tell me about the transition. So you came up with this offering, which was get everything, all the white papers, all the YouTube content for $20 a month. What was the reaction like?
Actually, it was cheaper than $20 because I was still experimenting. So reaction was good. I would say okay to good, because there's a crucial part of it that we only found out in the past 18 months or 2 years, and I'm going to tell you about it, is on a marketing side, it would be very obvious to say, get all of this value, right? Like Netflix, like you pay $10 or whatever, 10, $12, and you get all of this. And it means that your wife gets to choose her TV shows, and you can have a kid's account. And, it's like, okay, it's based on the amount of content that you get that makes it worthwhile.
Mm-hmm.
For music, and especially for jazz, which I often compare to chess. If you want to learn chess, you start to learn how the pieces move around. And you're like, oh, this is it. Okay, I got it. And then you play a few games and someone beats you all the time. Like, oh, I need to ramp up my game. Where do I begin? Well, lesson one, and then there's a certain point where it opens up to such a large extent that you don't know where to go.
Mm-hmm.
So the crucial key learning factor is stop selling the jazz guitar subscription like an everything Netflix deal, but start selling it like, this is what's going to help you organize your stuff, and we're going to provide you with it. It's like, start right here and do this first, and once you're done, go here, because we're not providing more value than there's already on YouTube, even on my free stuff. We're just providing an order of execution, a systematic A to Z, step by step, week by week programming. And that was the switch, the aha moment, where we're like, people are overwhelmed. Don't sell them more stuff. Start selling them less, but put the blinders on and focus on one thing. So that was a crucial learning part. Then selling it became really easy.
So that's interesting. Thanks for sharing that insight. How did that play out in a marketing stance? Because if you have a linear trajectory to what you're parsing out, so sort of section one, then it would imply there's a start and an end to the subscription. Mm-hmm. How do you avoid implying that that's the case, that people should start and end? Go ahead.
It's a good question, but the answer is super simple. Nobody really gets to the end because we have a massive amount of materials and we're still producing it on the paid side. So I've devised a system. I call it concierge because it's a nice French word. And actually, it's like the meta course above all other courses that takes you by the hand and go, this week, it's actually a weekly program, like almost like a workout program. You print it out and it's like, this is week one. Actually, if you are already in jazz, you might look at your week one. It's only 3 days. If it's really challenging for you, your week one might be 18 days. It's really up to you. But to answer your question, by playing it out week by week like this, and because of the sheer amount of materials, that used to be an overwhelm factor, and now it's playing in our favor totally, because like you'll never get to the end of it. And the other thing is, we know by the demographics and psychographics and by the type of customer we're looking at, the entry level is you play guitar, but you're interested in jazz. And we're taking the barrier of entry and we're really lowering it so it's easy to get in. Mm-hmm. Less like, elitist jazz, like this classical art forms like that. So we're lowering the entry, and the end point, someone that completes everything in our curriculum, would be that guy that goes to university or college, like Berkeley College or McGill, in Montreal, would go, mm-hmm. I want to audition. I want to become a first-year undergrad student. So that's how we avoid people seeing an end to it, because to be frank, no one has actually reached the end, or they come in and they're already too qualified. So, this is not for me, right? They're above that level.
Right. Got it. What's churn like for you guys?
Currently, I would say between 9 and 11%.
So that means per year, per month?
Per month.
Per month. So, and do you measure that by customers or by revenue? By
customer, yes. Customer. I have a sort of I'm a statistician, right? So I have a detour way to look at data that tells me what I want to know. I do know that people paying $9 or $11 or $15 have a higher churn than people that are really interested in getting it at 30 or 40, $39 US. And it is the ultimate goal within a reasonably short amount of time, 2 years, to ramp up the amount of students, MRR students, people on the monthly to 12, 13, or 1,500 and lower the churn to 3%. Because churn is, I learned that in John Werlow, the automatic. Like the more people you have, like a 3% churn at 1,000 people is not the same as a 3% churn at 10,000 people. Big lesson on my end.
Yeah. Just the sheer number of people you have to go sell, because 3% of 100 is 3, but 3% of 1,000 is 30, right? So, interesting. Okay, so your churn, that may sound quite high to people who are used to hearing about sort of business critical software, or where you make a huge investment in infrastructure in order to subscribe. But relative to information products, I would say around 10% is pretty common. In fact, good. I think so. You're said another way. For if you had 100 customers coming into a month, 10 would cancel at some point in that month. And so the average lifetime of a subscriber is just under a year, right? Is that, would that be fair to say?
Somewhat. There are different levels of memberships that we've tried experiment with pricing, and we're still figuring things out. But yeah, that'd be accurate. And if you look at the overall, I think maybe I picked only the unlimited, like the Netflix style, for that 9 to 11%. But if you look at the overall picture, I'm a freak for data. So in the past, I would say 6 months or so, we sort of renew who we lose. So in a given month, lose 30, gain 30, and we're, I would say, flatlining. The good thing about that is the newer people joining in spend a little more. So the average dollar sale is much higher. Instead of $9, it's like 29. So the impact financially is the same, even though you look at the amount of people, you look at your churn, you look at everything, it doesn't look good. But when you look at average sale, it's a win. Like a total.
Did I hear you correctly in saying that the churn rate among customers who paid more is actually lower?
Yes, totally.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah. It's like people write me emails and tell me almost how I've done them a favor. In making all these beautiful materials available at $39, while people that pay $9 will complain and cancel and want to come back 6 months later at the same $9 a month. So the value, and people, we do exit interviews, we do onboarding interviews to get people coming in, and they get on a quick call with me, and we go through the components of the membership. And I have staff doing this for me as well. But the exit interview, the finding is, if I could have paid more, like, have I known what I know now, these guys that were $15 would have been 50, 49 a month, because that's what value they perceive in it as well.
Isn't that fascinating? Do you think there's a point of diminishing returns? I mean, have you experimented with going beyond 29 to 50 or 60?
Not yet. That's on the plate for experimenting. Honestly, I want to try a 49 a month. I want to try 79 a month and 99 a month, because I haven't found, I'm still, I'm a stats guy. I'm still looking for that sweet spot, like the diminishing return. I haven't found it yet.
Yeah, isn't that fascinating? And so how big have you got, and the website is jazzguitarlessons.net if people want to check it out, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
How big have you got this company now, like in terms of the number of subscribers or revenue or whatever, however you want to use it?
If we can say it in plain terms, and this is, I know it's not going to be confidential, but say as of last year, $250,000 per year business.
Great.
So small. I want to go to the M, like SMB. I want to go to the M soon enough. But there are, staffing issues and churn issues and software issues, and life gets in the way.
What do you see as the end game for your company?
1,500 paid members a month. So that will take a while because of churn, etc. And if you say, like, live the life of your dream, think everything would have been fantastic. Like, if we can serve 10,000 students ongoing, which is not like I'm not like shooting the stars. It's a pretty realistic goal for the 10-year horizon. That would be the end game. But ultimately, I'm a retired musician. I don't play. I have this new album in 2018, but I don't play anymore. I do this for my students, and I don't even enjoy playing music as much as I used to. So the end game with jazzguitarlessons.net will be finding a good buyer that knows online businesses, and I could stay on for a while as a content provider because my face is on everything. But the end game is selling it and moving on. I've already started other business ventures with partners, and also that whole expertise of selling things online. That really translates to other local businesses even.
Sure.
So I'm more interested in that nowadays than, once that thing is taken off, like I get bored super easily, right? Like, it's fun, but it's not fun anymore because there's no struggle. Right?
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you sharing the story with us, Marc. It's great to have a real life example of someone who's taken a kind of one-off transactional business, in particular in the information product world, and made it into a subscription. So I wish you all the best on your journey to 1,500 customers. Again, if people want to check you out, the best place I'm assuming would be www.jazzguitarlessons.net.
Exactly.
Is that right? Yeah, lessons, plural.net. And you can find the world's expert in jazz guitar lessons.
That's me. That's my big face. Type it on YouTube too. You're going to find me.
And if you're going to look for you on YouTube, what's the best thing to search YouTube on?
Jazz guitar lessons.
Jazz guitar, they'll find you.
Yeah, Marc, jazz guitar.
It was great to meet you, and it was great to do this together.
Thanks, John. Great interview.
Okay, cheers.